The silver ship moved slowly through space toward the third planet from the yellow star. Inside the ship, Zixtela looked at her computer screen with 6 eyes. She was the leader of the science team from the Crystalline Collective. Her job was to study new planets and the life that lived on them. "Another boring water world," she said to her team. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a soft breeze. "The computer says this planet has simple life forms, probably plant eaters that run away from danger." Commander Vexani stood behind her. He was tall and thin with blue skin that changed colors when he was worried. Right now, his skin was a calm green color. "Good, easy first contact. We go down, say hello, give them some gifts, and add them to the council records." The ship was called Harmony's Edge. It had the best scanning tools in the galaxy. These tools could look at any planet and tell them what lived there. But today, something was wrong with the scans. "The readings are strange," said Coronel, the team's biology expert. He had 4 arms and was very good at his job. "The life forms on this planet are moving toward danger, not away from it." Zixtela made a sound like breaking glass. This was how her people laughed. "The computer must be broken. No smart life form moves toward danger. That would be crazy." On Earth, Dr. Jake Morrison was having the best day of his life. He stood on the deck of his research boat off the coast of California. The sun was bright and the ocean was deep blue. Jake was 32 years old with brown hair and bright eyes that showed his love for the ocean. "Perfect day for shark research," Jake said to his helper, Maria. She was new to the job and still scared of the big fish they studied. "Are you sure this is safe?" Maria asked. She held the rail of the boat with white knuckles. "Those sharks are huge." Jake put on his diving gear and checked his underwater camera. "Great whites are amazing animals. They've lived in these waters for millions of years. We're just visiting their home." The boat's fish finder showed 3 large shapes moving under the water. Each shark was over 12 feet long and weighed more than a small car. Any normal person would be afraid. Jake was excited. "Look at the size of them," Jake said with a big smile. "The big one must be 15 feet long. This is going to be incredible." High above the Earth, the alien ship's scanners locked onto Jake's boat. The aliens watched their screens as the human prepared to enter the water. "Interesting," Coronel sighed. "The life form is moving toward the large predators." Zixtela looked closer at her screen. "That can't be right. Those sea creatures are clearly apex predators. The small life form should be running away." Commander Vexania's skin turned yellow with worry. "Maybe it's sick. Sometimes sick animals act strange before they die." Jake slipped into the cold ocean. Water. The sharks were close, but he wasn't afraid. He had been studying marine life for 10 years. He knew that sharks were not the killers that movies made them out to be. They were just animals trying to survive. The first shark appeared out of the blue water like a ghost. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Its black eyes looked at Jake with curiosity, not hunger. Jake held very still and took pictures. With his camera, the alien scanners watched everything. They recorded Jake's heart rate, which was high but steady. They saw that he was not trying to escape or hide. Instead, he was moving closer to the predator. "This is impossible," Zixtela said. Her skin changed from clear to cloudy, which showed she was confused. "The small creature is actually following the predator." "Maybe it's the dominant species," Commander Vexani suggested. His skin was now bright orange, which meant he was very worried. "Maybe it's hunting the sea predator." Jake swam alongside the great white shark for 20 minutes. He took hundreds of pictures and measurements. The shark seemed curious about this strange visitor, but showed no signs of aggression. When Jake's air tank got low, he swam back to his boat. "That was amazing," Jake told Maria as he climbed onto the boat. "Did you see how calm she was?" She was probably just as curious about me as I was about her. Maria looked pale. She had watched the whole thing from the boat and was sure Jake was going to die. "You're completely crazy," she said. "That thing could have eaten you in one bite." Jake laughed and started to take off his diving suit. "Sharks don't eat people." We're not part of their diet. More people are killed by lightning every year than by sharks. The aliens listened to this conversation through their universal translators. The machine had trouble with some of Jake's words. Concepts like crazy and fun didn't exist in most alien languages. The creature talks about being struck by energy bolts from the sky, Coronel said, reading the translation. It says this happens to its species regularly. They must live on a world where the sky attacks them with lightning. Zixtala's 6 eyes grew wide. A world where the weather tries to kill the inhabitants? How do they survive? Maybe that's why they're not afraid of the sea predators, Commander Vexani said. His skin was now deep red, which meant he was very scared. They faced death from the sky every day. Ocean predators seem safe compared to that. Jake's boat moved to a new location where his instruments showed more shark activity. He wanted to dive again, but this time with 3 sharks in the area. I've never seen 3 great whites together like this, Jake said to Maria. This could be feeding behavior or maybe mating. Either way, it's going to be incredible to observe. Maria shook her head. I'm not letting you get in the water with 3 of those things. They're not things, Jake said gently. They're amazing animals that deserve our respect and study. How can we protect them if we don't understand them? The aliens recorded this conversation too. Their translators struggled with the idea of protecting a predator species. The small creature wants to protect the predators, Coronel said in disbelief. It's not trying to kill them or run from them. It wants to help them. This changes everything, Zixtala said. We're not looking at a normal prey species. We're looking at something completely different. Jake entered the water for his second dive of the day. This time, all 3 sharks approached him. Any other creature in the galaxy would have died from fear alone. Jake stayed calm and continued taking pictures. The largest shark, a female that Jake estimated was 17 feet long, swam directly under him. She was so close that Jake could have touched her, but he knew better than to disturb a wild animal. Magnificent, Jake whispered into his underwater communication device. She's absolutely perfect. The aliens recorded everything. Jake's vital signs showed excitement, not fear. His movements were deliberate and careful, showing intelligence and planning. Most importantly, the predators were not attacking him. I need to report this to the High Council immediately, Commander Vexani said. His skin had turned black, which was the color of extreme alarm for his species. We're dealing with something that doesn't follow any known patterns of behavior. Wait, Zixtala said. Let's observe more. Maybe this individual is unusual for its species. But as they watched Jake swim peacefully among the giant predators, taking measurements and photographs, they began to realize that they had discovered something completely new. This was not a typical prey species. This was not even a typical predator species. This was something else entirely. Jake finished his second dive and returned to his boat as the sun began to set. He was tired but happy. Today had given him enough research material for several scientific papers. Same time tomorrow? Jake asked Maria as they headed back to shore. Maria looked at him like he had lost his mind. You want to do this again tomorrow? Of course, Jake said with a smile. The sharks will probably be here for another week. I want to document as much of their behavior as possible. The aliens watched the human boat disappear toward land. They had hours of recordings to study, but they already knew their report would shock the Galactic Council. They had found a species that lived peacefully with apex predators on a world where lightning regularly struck from the sky. A species that showed no fear of death and actually seemed to enjoy dangerous situations. Set course for the outer system, Commander Vexani ordered. We need distance to process this information safely. As Harmony's edge moved away from Earth, the aliens began to realize they had discovered the most bizarre life forms in the galaxy. They just didn't know yet that Jake Morrison was one of the more cautious members of his species. 3 months had passed since the first strange encounter with the human near the sea predators. The Galactic Council sent their best team to study the third planet more carefully. Senior Analyst Mordek led this new group. He was very old and had studied 47 different worlds. He had never seen anything that worried him before. "We will watch from a safe distance," Mordek told his crew. The readings from the first team were clearly wrong. No intelligent species can survive the conditions they described. Mordek's ship had the most advanced watching tools in the galaxy. They could see and record everything that happened on the planet's surface without getting close. The team felt safe as they began their work on the big island of Hawaii. Dr. Lisa Parker was having another normal day at work. She was a volcanologist, which meant she studied volcanoes. Lisa was 28 years old with red hair that she kept tied back when working. She wore a special heat-resistant suit, but even with protection, her job was very dangerous. "The lava flow is moving faster today," Lisa said to her assistant Carlos. They stood only 50 feet away from melted rock that was over 2,000 degrees hot. "We need to get samples before it cools down." Carlos carried the sampling tools. He was new to volcano work and still nervous around the hot lava. "Are you sure we should get closer?" "The heat is already making my face hurt." Lisa walked toward the bright orange river of melted rock. The air shimmered from the extreme heat. Any normal person would run away, but Lisa moved closer. "This is perfect. The lava is fresh from deep inside the earth. We'll learn so much from these samples." High above the planet, the alien watchers could not believe what they were seeing. Their instruments showed that the temperature near the humans was over 1,000 degrees in their measurement system. This was hot enough to kill most life forms in the galaxy instantly. "The small creatures are walking toward the molten rock," said Kexthel, one of Mordek's assistants. His voice shook with fear. "They should be dead already." Mordek looked at his screens more carefully. "Check the equipment. These readings must be wrong. No biological life can survive those temperatures." "I have checked 3 times," Kexthel replied. "The equipment is working correctly. The creatures are actually getting closer to the heat source." Lisa reached the edge of the lava flow and knelt down. She used a long metal tool to collect a sample of the liquid rock. The heat was so intense that the air around her moved in waves, but she worked calmly and carefully. "Beautiful," Lisa said as she sealed the hot sample in a special container. "Look at those gas bubbles forming as it cools. This will tell us so much about what's happening deep underground." The aliens watched in horror as Lisa collected sample after sample. She was not just surviving the deadly heat. She seemed to enjoy her work. Their computers calculated that the temperature around her would turn most alien species into vapor in seconds. "Perhaps they are wearing some kind of protective technology," suggested Nixala, the team's technology expert. "Scan their equipment." Mordek ordered. The scans showed that Lisa's suit provided some protection, but not nearly enough to explain how she was surviving. The aliens realized that these creatures could somehow live in temperatures that would kill almost everything else in the galaxy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, extreme athlete Ryan Cooper was climbing a huge rock wall in Yosemite National Park. Ryan was 35 years old and had been climbing for 15 years. Today he was free climbing El Capitan, which meant he had no ropes or safety equipment. "Perfect weather for climbing," Ryan said to his friend Ben, who was watching from the ground far below. Ben had a radio to talk to Ryan during the climb. "You're completely insane," Ben's voice came through the radio. "That wall is over 3,000 feet high. One mistake and you're dead." Ryan was already 500 feet up the rock face. He moved carefully from one small hold to the next. His fingers found tiny cracks in the rock that most people couldn't even see. "That's what makes it exciting," Ryan said. "If it was safe, everyone would do it." The alien watchers had found Ryan when their scanners detected a life form moving straight up a massive stone structure. At first, they thought their equipment was broken again. "The creature is climbing without any support," Kexthel said in amazement. "If it falls from that height, the impact will destroy it completely." Mordek studied the readings. "Maybe it has wings we cannot see." "No wings detected," Nixala reported. "It is using only its small appendages to grip the rock surface." Ryan continued climbing higher and higher. He had been on the wall for 6 hours and was not even halfway to the top. Most alien species would have fallen from exhaustion by now, but Ryan seemed to be getting stronger as he climbed. "How do you do this for so many hours?" Ben asked through the radio. "You just focus on the next move," Ryan answered. "Don't think about falling. Don't think about how high you are. Just think about reaching the next handhold." The aliens listened to this conversation through their translators. The idea of not thinking about death while in mortal danger did not make sense to them. Every intelligent species they knew had strong survival instincts that made them avoid deadly situations. "The creature talks about not considering death," Mordek said slowly. "It chooses to ignore the danger it faces." "This species may have no survival instincts at all," Kextol suggested. "That would explain their strange behavior." At a military base in California, Marine Captain Steve Mitchell was leading a training exercise in Death Valley. It was summer, and the temperature was 120 degrees in the shade. There was no shade. 50 Marines followed Steve across the desert, carrying heavy packs and weapons. "Pick up the pace," Steve called to his men. "In real combat, the enemy won't wait for you to cool down." The Marines had been marching for 8 hours in the crushing heat. Their uniforms were soaked with sweat, but they kept going. This was normal training for them, even though the conditions would kill most life forms in the galaxy. "Sir, Private Johnson is falling behind," reported Sergeant Lisa Martinez. Steve looked back at the struggling Marine. "Johnson, you okay back?" "There? Yes, sir," Johnson gasped. "Just need to drink more water." "Good man. Stay hydrated and keep moving." The alien watchers could not understand what they were seeing. The creatures were voluntarily walking across a landscape that their computers classified as unsurvivable desert conditions. The surface temperature was hot enough to cook food on most alien worlds. "They are carrying extra weight while crossing the burning wasteland," Nixala observed. "And they seem to consider this normal activity." "Their leader calls this training," Mordek said, reading the translation. "They do this to prepare for something even more dangerous." What could be more dangerous than this? Kexthol wondered. Back in Ryan's hometown, he finally reached the top of El Capitan just as the sun was setting. He had been climbing for 14 hours straight. His hands were cut and bleeding, his muscles were tired, but he was smiling. "Made it," Ryan said into his radio. "The view from up here is incredible." "You're completely crazy," Ben replied from the ground, "but I'm glad you made it safely." Ryan started his long walk down the backside of the mountain. For him, this was just another fun weekend activity. He had plans to climb an even bigger mountain next month. The aliens had been watching human activities all over the planet for 3 months. They had seen humans swimming with deadly sea predators, working next to molten rock, climbing impossible heights, and marching across burning deserts. But what confused them most was what the humans ate and drank. Dr. Amanda Foster, an emergency room doctor, was working her third 18-hour shift this week. She had consumed 6 cups of coffee during her shift. Each cup contained enough caffeine to cause heart failure in most alien species. "I need more coffee," Amanda said to nurse practitioner Tom Wilson as they treated their 15th patient of the night. "You've had enough coffee to power a spaceship," Tom joked. "How are you still standing?" "Coffee is life," Amanda replied. "Without it, I'd fall asleep during surgery." The aliens recorded everything Amanda consumed during her shift, along with the deadly amounts of caffeine. She ate chocolate, which contained compounds that would shut down the nervous systems of silicon-based life forms. She also consumed spicy food that would burn through the digestive systems of most galactic species. "The creatures regularly consume multiple deadly toxins," Mordek reported to his team. "They seem to require these poisons to function normally." "Perhaps they evolved to process toxins as a defense mechanism," Nixala suggested. "Or perhaps toxins are the only thing that can survive on this death world," Kexel added. By the end of 3 months, Mordek's team had filled hundreds of reports with impossible observations. Humans regularly survived in conditions that would instantly kill most galactic life. They climbed to heights that would cause death from falling. They worked near heat sources that would vaporize other species. They consumed toxins that would shut down alien biological systems, but most disturbing of all, they seemed to enjoy these deadly activities. "Send a message to the High Council," Mordek ordered. "We need to upgrade our threat assessment of this species immediately." "What classification should we use?" Kexthal asked. Mordek looked at all the data they had collected. The Galactic Council was very worried about the reports from the third planet. They had classified humans as the most dangerous species ever found. But they needed to understand human society before making any big decisions. Senior Council member Thiolenix sent behavioral specialist Nixandra to study how these deadly creatures live together. "If they are apex predators," Thiolenix said during the mission briefing, "they must have a warrior society. They probably fight each other constantly for territory and resources." Nixandra was an expert in studying alien behavior. She had worked with violent species before, but never anything like what the reports described. "I will observe their social structures from a safe distance," she promised. "We need to know if they pose a threat to galactic peace." Her ship, called Silent Observer, had the best hiding technology in the galaxy. She could watch the humans without them knowing she was there. Nixandra expected to see armies fighting, cities under attack, and the strong ruling over the weak. Instead, she found something that made no sense at all. Mary Watson was reading a story to 25 children. In her kindergarten classroom in Ohio, Mary was 31 years old with blonde hair and a gentle voice. She sat in a circle with the 5-year-old children, holding a picture book about a friendly dragon. "And then the dragon shared his treasure with all the village children," Mary read. "Because sharing makes everyone happy." Little Emma raised her hand. "Miss Watson, why did the dragon share?" "Wouldn't he want to keep all the treasure for himself?" Mary smiled. "That's a great question, Emma. The dragon learned that having friends was better than having gold. When we share with others, we all feel good inside." Nixandra watched this scene through her ship's advanced cameras. Her equipment told her that Mary Watson was a member of the deadly human species, the same species that swam with sea predators and worked near molten rock. But Mary was being incredibly gentle with the small humans. "This makes no sense," Nixandra said to her computer. "Apex predators do not care for their young this way. They teach hunting and fighting, not sharing and friendship." The computer analyzed Mary's behavior. Subject shows no aggressive tendencies. Heart rate is calm, no weapons detected. Behavior suggests nurturing rather than predatory instincts. Nixandra watched Mary help a child who had trouble tying his shoes. She watched Mary comfort a little girl who was sad because she missed her mother. She watched Mary patiently answer dozens of questions from curious children who wanted to know everything about the world. "The young are not being trained for warfare," Nixandra observed. "They are being taught to be kind to each other." This was the first puzzle that confused the alien observer. But it was not the last. Across town, construction worker Tony Rodriguez was building a new school. Tony was a big man with strong arms from years of lifting heavy materials. He could carry steel beams that would crush most alien species. His hands were tough from working with rough concrete and sharp metal. But when Tony heard a tiny crying sound from the construction site, he stopped everything to investigate. "Hold up, guys," Tony called to his crew. "I think there's an animal in trouble." Tony found a small orange kitten trapped under a pile of building materials. The kitten was scared and hurt. Any predator species would have ignored it or eaten it. Tony did something completely different. "Hey there, little guy," Tony said softly. He moved the heavy materials very carefully so he wouldn't hurt the kitten more. "Don't worry. We're going to get you out of there." Nixandra's sensors recorded Tony's incredible physical strength as he lifted materials that weighed hundreds of pounds. But they also recorded his gentle touch as he picked up the tiny kitten. His massive hands, which could crush stone, held the small animal like it was made of glass. "Janet, call the animal shelter," Tony told one of his coworkers. "This little guy needs medical attention." "You're going to be late finishing this section," Janet warned. "The kitten is more important," Tony replied. The building can wait. Nixandra could not understand what she was seeing. The large human has the physical power to dominate other species, she recorded in her notes. Instead, it uses this power to protect a small, helpless creature that offers no benefit to it. The alien computer tried to analyze Tony's behavior using known predator patterns. Every analysis failed. No known predator species showed this kind of protective behavior toward prey animals. At the city hospital, Dr. Kevin Hayes was performing surgery on a premature baby. The infant weighed less than 2 pounds and was fighting for life. Kevin had been operating for 6 hours, using tools smaller than his fingernails to repair the tiny heart. Kevin was part of the same species that could survive in volcanic heat and climb impossible heights. His hands were steady enough to perform surgery that required perfect precision. One wrong move could end the baby's life. Suture holding, Kevin said to his surgical team. Heart rate is stabilizing. Nurse Linda Chun watched the monitors. Everything looks good, doctor. You did it again. Kevin had saved hundreds of babies during his career. He worked 18-hour days and never complained about being tired. He used his incredible human abilities not to hunt or fight, but to save the smallest and weakest members of his species. Every life matters, Kevin often told his students. It doesn't matter how small or weak someone is. Everyone deserves a chance to live and grow. Nixandra recorded every detail of the surgery. Her equipment could hardly believe the level of precision Kevin showed. The same species that showed no fear of apex predators could also perform the most delicate operations imaginable. The human uses its superior abilities to preserve life rather than destroy it, Nixandra noted. This behavior has no precedent in galactic records. The next observation confused Nixandra even more. Nurse practitioner Rachel Blake worked at a free clinic in the poorest part of the city. Rachel could have worked at expensive hospitals and made lots of money. Instead, she chose to help people who could not pay for medical care. Next patient, Rachel called from her small office. An elderly man named George came in. He had been sick for weeks but had no money for treatment. In most societies, the strong ignore the weak when there is no benefit to helping them. Don't worry about payment, George, Rachel said kindly. Let's just focus on getting you healthy. Again, Rachel spent an hour examining George and giving him medicine. She explained everything carefully and made sure he understood how to take care of himself. George tried to pay her with vegetables from his garden, but Rachel insisted the vegetables were a gift between friends. You don't understand, George? Said, I have to pay you something. Your health is payment enough, Rachel replied. Just promise me you'll come back if you don't feel better. Nixandra watched dozens of similar interactions at the clinic. Humans with superior abilities helping. Weaker humans for no reward. They gave away their time, their knowledge, and their resources to help others. The dominant members of the species actively support the weaker members, Nixandra recorded. This creates a stronger group overall, but the behavior still makes no sense from a predator perspective. The alien observer spent months watching human society. She saw teachers who spent their own money to buy supplies for their students. She saw firefighters who risked their lives to save strangers. She saw police officers who protected people they had never met. She watched humans adopt children who were not their biological offspring. She saw them care for elderly parents who could no longer care for themselves. She observed them donating money to help people in other countries they would never visit. The evidence is overwhelming, Nixandra reported to the council. This species has the physical capabilities of apex predators, but they have developed a social structure based on cooperation and mutual care. That's impossible, Senior Council Member Thiolinix replied over the communication system. Apex predators are aggressive and territorial. They do not form caring societies. The evidence contradicts all known behavioral patterns, Nixandra confirmed. These creatures are physically capable of dominating their entire planet, but instead, they choose to work together and protect their weakest members. At a local park, Nixandra observed something that made her question everything she knew about intelligent life. A group of human children from different families were playing together. They shared toys, helped each other on playground equipment, and comforted anyone who got hurt. 8-year-old Marcus fell off the swings and scraped his knee. Instead of ignoring him or taking advantage of his weakness, the other children immediately ran to help. "Are you okay, Marcus?" asked 7-year-old Sophia. "I'll get the first aid kit," said 9-year-old David, running toward the adults. "Don't cry," said 6-year-old Amy, holding Marcus's hand. "It's just a little cut. You're very brave." The children worked together to clean Marcus's wound and make him feel better. They gave up their playtime to take care of their friend. This behavior went against every known pattern of juvenile development in predator species. "The young of this species show advanced empathy and cooperation," Nixandra observed. "They are not competing for dominance. They are supporting each other." That evening, Nixandra prepared her final report for the Galactic Council. She had observed a species that could survive impossible conditions and showed no fear of death. The reports about human behavior had shocked the Galactic Council, but they needed to understand how these creatures were physically possible. Chief Medical Officer Zarthel was the best doctor in the galaxy. He had studied the biology of over 200 different species. When he read the reports about humans, he was sure the other teams had made mistakes. "These readings are clearly wrong," Zarthel told his medical team as their ship approached Earth. "No biological life form can survive the conditions described in these reports. We will do proper medical scans and find the truth." Zarthel had brought the most advanced medical equipment in the galaxy. His scanners could look inside any living creature and understand exactly how it worked. He was confident that he would solve the mystery of the impossible humans. "Probably they have some kind of mechanical enhancements," suggested his assistant, Dr. Veltara. "Advanced technology that makes them appear stronger than they really are." "That must be it," Zarthel agreed. "No natural evolution could produce the abilities described in these reports." At a gym in Denver, athletic trainer Kate Johnson was leading her morning CrossFit class. Kate was 29 years old with strong muscles from years of training. She had short brown hair and bright eyes that showed her love of physical challenges. "Today we're doing a full-body workout," Kate announced to her class of 15 people. "We'll start with a 5-minute warm-up, then move to the main exercises." The warm-up alone would have exhausted most alien species. Kate led her students through jumping, stretching, and lifting movements that required incredible coordination and strength. But for the humans, this was just the beginning. "Now we move to the real workout," Kate said with a smile. 20 minutes of high-intensity exercises. Remember to listen to your body and modify if you need to. Zarthel's medical scanners locked onto Kate as she began the main workout. The readings were so extreme that he checked his equipment 3 times to make sure it was working correctly. Kate's heart rate increased to 180 beats per minute. This would cause instant heart failure in most galactic species, but Kate's heart was not failing. Instead, it was pumping blood more efficiently to supply her working muscles. "Heart rate at dangerous levels," Dr. Veltara observed. "But all other readings show normal function." "Scan her muscle tissue," Zarthel ordered. The scanners revealed something that should have been impossible. Kate's muscle fibers were generating force that would tear apart normal biological tissue. Her bones were handling stress that would shatter the skeletons of most known life forms. Yet everything was working perfectly. "These readings violate basic laws of biology," Zarthel said in disbelief. "Organic tissue cannot generate this much force without destroying itself." Kate finished her 20-minute workout and immediately began helping her students. She was breathing hard but not exhausted. Her heart rate was returning to normal levels that would still be considered dangerous for most aliens. "Great job, everyone," Kate said to her class. "Same time tomorrow?" Most of the students agreed to return the next day. They would put their bodies through the same punishment again, and they seemed excited about it. "The creatures voluntarily subject themselves to physical stress that should cause permanent damage," Dr. Veltara noted. "And they plan to repeat this experience regularly." Across the city, paramedic Dan Foster was working a second straight shift at the Emergency Medical Center. Don had been awake and working for 36 hours straight. He had responded to car accidents, heart attacks, and other emergencies without stopping for more than a few minutes at a time. Another call. "Coming in," the dispatcher announced. "Multi-car accident on Highway 25. Dan, you're the closest unit." Don climbed into his ambulance for the 15th time that day. He had consumed 6 cups of coffee and 2 energy drinks to stay alert. Any other species would have collapsed from exhaustion hours ago, but Dan was still functioning at full capacity. "On my way," Don replied into his radio. "ETA 5 minutes. Zarthal S scanners followed Don as he drove through traffic to reach the accident scene. The medical readings showed that Don should have been unconscious from sleep deprivation. His body had been in constant motion for over 30 hours with only brief rest periods. "Brain function should be severely impaired," Dr. Veltara observed. Yet the subject shows no signs of cognitive breakdown. At the accident scene, Dan worked quickly and efficiently to treat 3 injured people. He performed complex medical procedures while standing in the middle of a busy highway. His hands were steady and his thinking was clear despite the extreme fatigue his body had endured. "Patient has internal bleeding," Don reported to the hospital over his radio. "ETA 10 minutes, prep the trauma room." Dan's ability to function under extreme stress amazed the alien observers. He was making life-or-death decisions while his body operated far beyond normal biological limits. The subject maintains full cognitive ability despite conditions that would cause mental collapse in 97% of known species. Zarthal recorded, "The most shocking discovery came when the aliens observed mountain climber Ashley Chun attempting to reach the summit of Mount Everest without supplemental oxygen." Ashley was 34 years old and had been climbing mountains for 12 years. She was one of only a few hundred humans who had ever tried this extremely dangerous challenge. "Base camp, this is Ashley," she said into her radio. "I'm at 26,000 feet and feeling strong." Ashley was climbing in the death zone, where the air contained only 1/3 of the oxygen available at sea level. Most alien species would lose consciousness immediately at this altitude. Many would die within minutes. "Copy that, Ashley," replied her support team at base camp. "Weather looks good for the next 6 hours. You're making excellent time." Zarthal S. Atmospheric scanners confirmed that the oxygen levels around Ashley were insufficient to support consciousness in 89% of galactic life forms. Yet Ashley was not only conscious but performing complex physical and mental tasks. "She is climbing a vertical rock face while her brain receives inadequate oxygen," Dr. Veltara said in amazement. "This should be physically impossible." Ashley continued climbing higher and higher. At 28,000 feet, she stopped to take photographs of the view. Her breathing was labored, but her mind was clear enough to operate complex camera equipment and navigate treacherous terrain. "Almost at the summit," Ashley reported to base camp. "The view is incredible up here." 2 hours later, Ashley reached the top of Mount Everest. She had climbed to a height where the atmospheric pressure would kill most alien species, and she had done it without any artificial breathing assistance. "Summit achieved," Ashley said into her radio. "Thank you to everyone who made this possible." The aliens could hardly believe their instruments. Ashley's body was operating in conditions that violated basic principles of biology. Her cells were functioning with oxygen levels that should have caused immediate organ failure. "This species has evolved biological systems that should not be possible," Zarthal concluded. "They operate far beyond normal limits for organic life." But the most amazing discovery was yet to come. Firefighter Carlos Rodriguez was responding to a building collapse in downtown Phoenix. The building had been damaged in an earthquake and several people were trapped inside. "We have possible survivors on the 3rd floor," the fire chief told Carlos and his team. "But the structure is unstable. One wrong move and the whole thing could come down." Carlos entered the dangerous building without hesitation. He carried heavy rescue equipment while navigating through rubble and broken concrete. The building groaned and shifted around him, but Carlos continued searching for survivors. "I found them," Carlos reported over his radio. 2 adults and a child, they're injured but alive. The aliens watched as Carlos lifted concrete blocks that weighed several hundred pounds each. He created a path through the debris while supporting parts of the ceiling that threatened to collapse. His strength was far beyond anything they had seen in other species. "Found another one," Carlos called out. Elderly woman trapped under a desk. "I need the cutting tools." For 3 hours, Carlos worked inside the unstable building. He rescued 7 people total, carrying each one to safety through the dangerous maze of broken concrete and twisted metal. When the building finally collapsed completely, Carlos was safely outside with all the survivors. "Everyone accounted for," Carlos reported to his chief. "No casualties." Zarthel's scanners had recorded everything. Carlos had been exposed to crushing forces that should have flattened him. He had lifted weights that should have torn his muscles apart. He had worked in an environment where a single mistake would have meant instant death. The subject survived conditions that would destroy most known materials. Not just biological tissue, Dr. Veltara observed, but what confused the aliens most was that Carlos showed no signs of stress or fear during the rescue. His heart rate was elevated from physical exertion, but he remained calm and focused throughout the dangerous operation. He treated the life-threatening situation as routine work, Zarthel noted. This suggests that such extreme conditions are normal for this species. After months of medical observations, Zarthel prepared his report for the Galactic Council. The Galactic Council emergency meeting lasted for 3 days. Representatives from over 200 species gathered to discuss the reports about humans. Senior Counselor Thiolenix had read every document about the strange species from the third planet. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. "We face an unprecedented situation," Thiolenix announced to the assembled delegates. "We have discovered a species that should not exist according to all known science. They are biologically impossible, socially unique, and potentially the most dangerous beings in the galaxy." Counselor Zix Mora from the Peaceful Federation raised a concern. "Should we quarantine their star system? If they decide to leave their planet, they could conquer the entire galaxy." "But the reports also say they are compassionate," added Counselor Vexcala from the Crystal Worlds. "They protect their weak and care for other species." "Perhaps they are not a threat." Theolenix looked at the stack of reports on his desk. "That is exactly what makes them so dangerous. A species that can survive anything and still chooses to be kind is completely unpredictable." The Council had never faced such a difficult decision. Every other dangerous species they had encountered was aggressive and easy to understand. Humans were different. They were deadly but gentle, impossible but real, terrifying but caring. "We need direct contact," Theolenix decided. "Send our best diplomats to establish formal relations. We must learn their intentions before making any decisions about their future." 6 months later, NASA Administrator Colonel Patricia Wells received the strangest phone call of her life. Alien representatives wanted to meet with humanity at a neutral location near Jupiter. Patricia was chosen to lead Earth's first official diplomatic mission to meet with galactic civilization. "This is really happening," Patricia said to her team as they prepared for the journey. "We're about to make first contact with alien species." Patricia was 45 years old with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen many challenges during her military and space career. She had commanded space missions, managed complex operations, and solved problems that seemed impossible. But this was different from anything she had ever done. "Who should we bring with us?" asked Dr. Sandra Hayes, Patricia's science advisor. Sandra was a medical doctor who had worked with astronauts for 15 years. "We need to show them who we really are," Patricia replied. "Not just our leaders or scientists, but regular people who represent humanity." Patricia chose a diverse team for the historic meeting. Teacher Greg Miller would represent education and humanity's care for young people. Engineer Luis Chun would show human problem-solving abilities. Artist Jennifer Walsh would demonstrate human creativity and culture. The meeting took place on a large space station that orbited Jupiter. The station was built by the aliens specifically for this historic first contact. When Patricia's team arrived, They were amazed by the size and beauty of the alien construction. "Welcome to Harmony Station," said the lead alien diplomat through a universal translator. The alien looked like a tall, thin crystal that changed colors when it spoke. "I am Senior Counselor Thiolenix. We are honored to meet with representatives of your species." Patricia stepped forward. "Thank you for inviting us. I am Colonel Patricia Wells, and this is our diplomatic team. We are excited to learn about galactic civilization." The aliens had expected to meet with humanity's warrior leaders or their most dangerous individuals. Instead, they found themselves talking with people who seemed calm, intelligent, and friendly. "We have been observing your species for some time," Thiolenix explained. "Your capabilities are quite remarkable." "Our capabilities?" Greg Miller asked. He was confused because he thought of himself as just a normal teacher. "Your people swim with apex predators," said Alien Medical Officer Zarthel. "They work near molten rock. They climb impossible heights without safety equipment. They survive in conditions that would kill most galactic life forms." Patricia and her team looked at each other with surprise. "You mean regular human activities?" Patricia asked. "Regular activities?" Thiolenix's crystal form turned bright red with shock. "You consider swimming with deadly sea creatures to be regular?" "Well, yes," Luis Chun replied. "Marine biologists study ocean life all the time. It's just part of their job." Dr. Sandra Hayes tried to explain. "We've always lived alongside dangerous animals and harsh environments. We've learned to be careful and take precautions, but we don't avoid them completely." The aliens could hardly believe what they were hearing. These humans talked about surviving in impossible conditions like it was nothing special. "What about your plans for planetary expansion?" asked Counselor Zixmora nervously. "Our observations show you are preparing to colonize other worlds." "You mean Mars?" Patricia asked. "Yes, we hope to establish a research base there within the next decade. It's always been humanity's dream to explore space and learn about the universe." The aliens were terrified. They had classified Mars as a death world unsuitable for most galactic life. The idea that humans wanted to live there voluntarily was shocking. "Mars has extreme temperature variations, deadly radiation, and no breathable atmosphere," Zarthel pointed out. "That's why it's such an interesting challenge," Luis Chun replied enthusiastically. "We'll need to develop new technologies and life support systems. It will be the greatest engineering project in human history." Teacher Greg Miller added his perspective. "We're already teaching children about space exploration in schools, and the next generation is very excited about the possibility of living on other planets." The aliens realized that humans weren't planning to conquer the galaxy. They were planning to spread their impossible biology to worlds that no other species could survive on. "Tell us about your education system," Thiolenix requested, hoping to understand how humans raise their young. Greg Miller smiled. "We try to teach children to be curious, creative, and kind. We want them to ask questions, solve problems, and help others." "Do you train them for combat?" asked Counselor Vexcala. "Combat?" Greg looked confused. "We teach them to read, write, do math, understand science, and get along with others. We want them to grow up to be good people who make the world better." Artist. Jennifer Wall showed the aliens examples of human creative work. She displayed paintings, music, poetry, and sculptures that humans had created over thousands of years. "This shows both beauty and struggle," Jennifer explained, pointing to a painting of a stormy ocean. "Humans have always found inspiration in the challenges we face. We create art about the storms we survive and the mountains we climb." The aliens studied the artwork carefully. They saw pictures of humans facing natural disasters, exploring dangerous places, and overcoming incredible obstacles. But they also saw images of love, friendship, hope, and dreams for a better future. "Your species finds beauty in danger," Thiolenix observed. "We find beauty everywhere," Jennifer replied. "In sunsets and storms, in quiet moments and great adventures, in the simple and the extraordinary." Dr. Sandra Hayes explained human medicine to the alien doctors. "We perform heart transplants, brain surgery, and cancer treatments. We've learned to repair almost any injury or illness. But these procedures would be impossible for most species, Zarthel said. The stress alone would be fatal. That's why we train for years to become doctors, Sandra explained. We study, practice, and prepare so we can help people when they need us most. The aliens began to understand something important. Humans didn't see themselves as impossible or dangerous. They saw themselves as ordinary people trying to learn, grow, and help each other. What do you want from galactic civilization? Xylenix asked the crucial question. Patricia thought carefully before answering. We want to learn from you and share what we know. We want to explore the galaxy, meet new species, and maybe help solve problems that seem impossible. Help solve impossible problems? Xylenix repeated. That's what humans do, Lise Chun said simply. When we face a problem that seems too hard, we work together until we find a solution. That's how we've always survived. The Alien Council members met privately to discuss what they had learned. Humans were indeed the most capable species they had ever encountered. But they were also the most helpful. They want to help us, Xylenix told the Council. They see challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. But are they safe? Counselor Zixmora asked. They are the safest, dangerous species we could possibly encounter, Xylenix replied. They use their incredible abilities to protect and help others. The Council made their decision. They would invite humanity to join galactic civilization, but with a special role. We would like to offer your species membership in the Galactic Council, Xylenix announced to the human delegation. But we have a unique position in mind. Patricia leaned forward with interest. What kind of position? We would like humanity to serve as the galaxy's problem solvers, Xylenix explained. When we encounter challenges that seem impossible, situations that are too dangerous for other species, or problems that require unique solutions, we would ask for your help. You want us to handle the impossible problems? Patricia asked. You are the only species that doesn't seem to understand the word impossible? Xylenix replied. Patricia looked at her team. Greg Miller nodded enthusiastically. Dr. Sandra Hayes smiled.